The word for water in Sanskrit is Jivan, which means life. In a sense, it means water is life. Life begins at the origin of rivers. I'm Vijay, called Vijay. Professionally, I've been a teacher all my life, and I'm interested in water in all its phases. Quality of water, quantity of water, river basins, name it. That's my sort of first love. Water, as life, and rivers as the dynamic entity which make water perform and do things which the society and nature want it to do. We are in fact in a situation where rivers, as the key entity around which Indian life moves, realize and appreciate and understand that it's the origins of rivers, from where the rivers begin, that the rivers come in our, not possession, but our protection. The NA, so-called, or the Integrated River Basin Management, is an ancient idea, no big deal. So we said, let's sort of reinvent it. Well, modern river basin management is quite recent. It's got a very short history of about 80, 90 years, not more. It started in the Tennessee Valley in the United States. But it didn't go very far. It was not integrated. It was still highly technological, engineering, top-down sort of thing, master planning. And they said, why is it not taking off? So I said, well, one reason is it's top-down, it's technocratic, people are not involved. So they said, well, how do you change it? I said, go back to the wisdom, old wisdom. Arbitration, negotiations, discussions has been the way of life in the Orient, in India, for thousands of years. Our first contacts with both ends in Holland were in the late 80s, 88, 89, 90, 91. And that time we came together more to oppose non-sustainable mega projects and quickly realized that that's not the way forward. The way forward is to find good alternatives. We need networks, we need good contacts, we need international exposure, and that's what we get with both ends. Then comes 2009, when we suddenly were faced with an opportunity. The government of Maharashtra in India had used the existing laws, the national water policy and the water laws and so on, to pass a new act in 2005, 2006, which asked the state governments to actually go and do sub-basin, river basin planning, but keeping in mind the opinion and the desires of the people. This act became the facilitating or enabling factor for the whole thing to grow in India. And that became a turning point in our work. Because here was an opportunity for doing something formally for the government in the way which we wanted to do, which we liked to do.
I'm Anuja Date and I work in Gomukh as a sort of research associate. I specialize in environmental sciences. So I work for the Vainganga project from the environmental angle. This is the first time that the community has acquired rights over their forests and their land. So we are gathered here to meet with the villagers in these little hamlets to decide what will be the way forward for implementing these rights and how will they manage their forests in the future period. So the river basin actually works in tandem with what the forests are doing for it. So if I have to take care of the water resources and how the water is going to get used, I will have to make sure that the forests are intact and healthy. Now we are looking at who wants water, how much water, and how do they want their water.
Some of the structures, small tanks, ponds, which are in use today, have survived for 400 years. What more do we need as a proof for sustainability? This is the proof. Time test. A question I'm normally asked is, what's the big deal about this NA? How is it different from other participatory approaches? So my answer is rather simple. The right to manage your own resources. The local nucleus has to be original. Other participatory approaches are reactive. There's already a project, there's already a plan, and then people are supposed to participate and put in their little bit. And people don't know whether they accepted, not accepted, why it was not accepted or accepted. There is a consultative process. One-off, usually, maybe 1 or 2 meetings, maybe a public hearing, but it's really a sham. The NA, in fact, does it start to finish. Even before conceptualizing the plan, as I've said, it goes on. This is what key difference. The local nucleus has to be original. It's not artificially created by somebody. No foreign donor, no government agency. It has to be there. It has to be on its own. It has to be unique in itself. And every society, every river basin will have it. One has to go and search for it. The second key difference is the end point. In the case of normal participatory approaches, those who are participating, so-called stakeholders, don't know what's going to happen at the end. In the NA, everybody discusses what is it that we finally want, with or without a plan, without or with A or B project. What is it that we want at the end of the line? We would like to get back the control over our resources in order to decide how to manage it. So the right to manage natural resources, not just what they own, but community resources, decisions about the river as a whole, as a complete basin. The right to manage your own resources. The right to make amendments in laws. So everything becomes negotiable. Even laws become negotiable.
Negotiated approach is quite welcome in the sense that unilaterally if the government organization decides certain things without talking, without involving or without getting opinion from local community, then there is a chance that local community will never accept it as their decision. So it is like a family. All stakeholder, I consider, it's my personal opinion, I consider that all stakeholder into the government, farmers and the fishermen is a kind of local family or a local community. So by empowering the local community, you are doing one thing, that you are involving their views. Secondly, you are involving them in day-to-day affairs of the reservoir. And thirdly, being a local village community, it is more easy for them to look after the day-to-day management. Whereas if I take the decision at my level, at district level, it takes again time to percolate it down for the sake of implementation. So this, by involving local community, we can save this time gap.
This is not just my baby, not just Gomuk. It's everybody's option. And if it works here, it should and can work anywhere. It applies and works the quickest where there has been a great administrative neglect. There has been situations where the external forces have made people helpless. That's where it works the best. And that's why when we got an invitation from Benin in Africa, we said, well, Africa is like us. We decided that, well, both Hens and Gomuk will now take this up as a mascot concept. So we had a discussion with other organizations and colleagues and sent them letters and said, well, do you want to join up in this exercise of championing, so to say?
The integrated water resource management has proven its limits, its boundaries. It doesn't allow people to speak. It doesn't allow nature. It's always donor-driven. It's always private market, etc. This time, we need innovation. So sometimes the community have a good knowledge, but they may lack some of the scientific background. That's where we, as a society, scientific community, comes in to add to what is already there. So it's not donor-driven. It's not NGO managed. It's not reactive. It's locally done. It's people-centered. It's around sustainability, but also you are negotiating with the nature. Ecosystem must speak out. You must respect what nature wants. I think that's something which we have not been doing in the past.
Mono is a typical basin, like any other basin in the world. As far as Africa is concerned, we are from very similar backgrounds historically. India was a colonial country, and so is Africa. Most of Africa has got the similar historical antecedents, so to say. Then what's left behind is a kind of an system vacuum. And this is what I've noticed in the last few days I've been here. The ingenuity in the minds of people is still there. That's not gone, that's still there.
Antanabalo Antoinette. Mon grand-papa en privé. Pirato et moi. On descend les en privé. On TV. Ici vivi bien. Mes années, mes courants, mes so colonna ganu. Mes courants, mes lena. Mes jena pompi minuna. Pompi le mia bedouane. As enke mi kanyi so kuru adamdodo antia. Enyi nde be Georgina nya. Be ne wala ten doalo mi anyonu. E mi la ten to le veve sesi wa mea. La nyi nde be la Georgina mi. E vegwano gba ten so mi anyonu chon so do un so mea. La gba nyi no la gba Georgina. Nka no so mu do kote re pepe ya. Ne mi azwan ni la ya nyi mu bi. Obe mi a obobo ye mu le gbo be sina be ne bobo to e be nyi mi la bo mi anu no ku do un so la na yi la pon po asira si mea. Be nya mu le pre be mi la onene be nu. Nkogbe be mi la onene be nu mi la obobo a. Leke mi la gbe zondo no gbe le diriger mi ya be mi la o.
NA will never become a tool like fix it. You will say do that. No, I don't think it should be something like it needs something very flexible that people can adjust, adapt, according to the situations. That's where we think everybody's input is very important.
There is no copyright on the negotiated approach. It's for the world to decide who wants to use it. Welcome. Finds problems with it, maybe we could solve them. But it's absolutely possible to do it in Africa.
Merci. 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 Merci.
In India, it's going to happen because now the government has accepted that this is the right approach. That you cannot work without the people and asking for their advice, and that by 2030, 2040, all river basins will have people-managed, people-accepted plans which the local communities, not just local communities, the society accepts and owns as their plan, as the keepers of the river, as the keepers of the ecosystems. This is my hope for the future. We'd have to work a long way, a hard way. It takes time, but we're all for it.